In today's video, we're going to be building two dioramas. Now these are 1/18 scale kits that fit action figures that are 3 3/4 of an inch tall to 4 inches tall. Now these two kits are available currently on my website at jasonjensentrains.com, along with some other sci-fi accessories. And for those of you who are Patreon members, you will receive a discount. And the discount code can be found on my Patreon page at patreon.com/JasonJensenTrains. All right, now the first diorama that we're going to build, we'll assemble it, but I'm also going to focus on painting and weathering it and how to do that. And the second diorama, we'll focus more on just how to put them together. All right, we have a lot to do, so let's get to it. Just a quick note before we get started. You can paint these any color that you want. You can make them look new. You can make them look old. The sky's the limit. So don't feel like you have to paint them the way that I'm painting them. Okay, the first diorama that we're going to build is the cargo diorama. And I'll be referring to this one while we're building it. Here are a couple of the part sheets. This one is 1/16 inch thick, and this is an 1/8 inch thick. The accent color that I chose for this diorama is going to be red. So I'm going to pop out everything that I want red. I'm going to spray a gray primer on it and then paint it a red metal color. Yours, when you receive it, will have little tabs, and you'll need to take a blade, a brand new blade, and you'll have to cut those. Then the piece just pops right out. Now you'll see there's some pieces that didn't fall out, and you can just very easily pop those out. Now I recommend having a little container that you put all those little pieces in, because they are great little details that you can use later on when building a diorama or building a spaceship. They're just great detail parts. Now I haven't put tabs on all of mine here, but again, when you get it, there'll be little tabs that need to be cut to break out the pieces. And then on this one, be very careful when breaking out those letters. Okay, so here are all the pieces that I'm going to paint red. You have all your shelf supports, your 3 shelves, this piece that says cargo, this piece that says cargo, and this piece. Oh, and these two. I almost forgot 2 more little pieces. Okay, my pieces are all primed, and this is what I used to prime them. Okay, now we're going to paint this all red, and for that I'm using French wine and mixing a metallic red with it from Ammo. This part does take a while. It's okay if some of the gray is showing. It'll just look like the paint's chipping off. Then you may want to have clothespins handy. Go gentle inside those letters. You don't want to break any of it. While our red is drying, let's cut out these pieces. And these pieces all get colored a aqua blue color. So just look for the little tabs and cut it. And they should pop right out. Now I recommend cutting these all out and then spraying them so that you're sure to get all of the edges. If you spray it when it's in the sheet, you might not get all of the edges. Now you can save some of this and cut out designs and make little screens or make panels. Okay, now let's get a gray primer sprayed on all of these thin pieces that are dark brown. And make sure that you spray the side that has engraving on it. Very important. Even these little ones, you'll see they have lines and circles engraved on them. Okay, well, the gray primer is all done and dried. The ones with the safety stripes, this gets painted black, and these two get painted black. And the rest of these get a blue color. Before we spray these with the blue, there's a couple that need to get masked. And I'll show you quick. Okay, so that sign gets put over there, and we're going to paint it white where the blue tape is. And then these, after they're painted black, get put on here. But the lines on here, this has to be painted yellow. So let's mask this. Okay, so we'll put that back on here. And now we can spray this all. And we're going to spray it with vintage teal. You know, before we spray this, I'm going to mask this off. There's a little design here, and I want this area right here to be teal. So let's quick mask that. Now I wanted to mention that it's important to spray all your pieces with a gray primer first because it seals the wood and it gives it a nice surface for the paint to stick to. Be careful when you're taking the tape off because you don't want to scratch it. Next, we're going to spray the base and all of the walkways with this. Now be sure that all of the little pieces are out, and make sure that all the pieces are out of this. And it's simple. Just make sure that you poke them all out before you paint it. Now the bottom piece has these little angled pieces cut into it. That's the base. Now on mine you'll see there's a little extra right there on the edge. So just take your file Okay, that's it. Now we'll just paint this. Again, all those little pieces that got poked out, save them. Great little detail parts for your diorama. Well, as you can see, that is all done and it is dry. I sprayed a primer on all of the other pieces that are in the kit. After the primer was dried, I then sprayed it with the teal color. And this is just on the thin stuff. And of course these. Next, we're going to work on these walkways right here. And I'm using a masking fluid called Misket. And we're going to use a sponge and dip it in here. And we'll let this dry. And then spray our teal color over it. And then all we got to do is rub this off and this color will come through. Okay, we'll let this dry for just a little bit, just a minute or two, and then we'll spray our teal over it and rub that off. It gets really gummy and sticky, and then it just will completely rub off. It's great stuff. You can see when it dries, it almost turns completely clear. You don't even see it. Alright, I'll take this and spray the teal, and then we'll come back and rub all that off. Okay, while we let that dry, I'm going to glue the base that we painted with the hammer finish to the back wall, which I sprayed with a gray primer. And that will be the color that it's going to stay. And you can see, hopefully you can see how that fits together. So, but it's very, very important that you use something that is square to make sure that that is a perfect 90-degree angle. And I'm going to use super glue. Alright, I glued the base and the wall together on a different work surface that I knew was completely flat. Now this is dry, so now we can take these and rub off that cement. And as you can see, it just comes right off. Now this is kind of messy. Then you'll want to take kind of a stiff brush, maybe, if I can find one. No, it's not as stiff as I would like, but you want to get all those little crumbs out from in between those grates. And you probably want to keep these in order. Now, if you don't want to buy the Misket, the rubber cement, after you spray this with the hammer finish, you could take a sponge with whatever color you choose and sponge over it, and that'll give you the same effect too. Next, we'll add some rust to these, and hopefully you can see how I've got these laid out. So they're opposites. Same with these pieces, because those get put together and these will make the pillars. Let me show you quick. And you can see down here, these pieces right here, those are these. So you get both sides. Okay, for our rust, again, we're using burnt sienna and bittersweet chocolate. We'll start with burnt sienna. Okay, we're done with that color. And yes, this takes a while, but it's gonna really pay off when we put this all together. You know, while I've got this color out, I think I'm going to slide this over and add some rust to our walkways. Just a little bit on the outer edges. Now we'll take bittersweet chocolate, now after this is all together, dry brush with some silver paint and hit the corners and edges, and it'll look like the metal is showing through. The key to this is to go very light. You want all the little holes or little dots to be small. You don't want any too big. It'll just look out of scale and just end up looking splotchy. But already you can see it's really starting to have more of a metal look. I'm going a little heavier towards the bottom, and I'll show you what the bottom is. The bottom has a tab that sticks down. And see, the top does not. The top is just flat. So now I have these all turned where the bottom is down here. And I'm going heavier with the bittersweet chocolate down here. We may want to hit the bottom of these too. Go a little darker towards the bottom. Okay, now for the really fun part. We're going to start to assemble everything. So yours should look like this. You should have these little slits at the top, and then the base has these lines at the bottom. So now you can start to dry fit everything. But that little tab that sticks down goes in there, in that hole. And then there's a tab at the bottom, or I'm sorry, at the top that sticks back, and that goes in that little slit. Now I should have sprayed a gray primer. I am going to quick do that. I don't know why that one didn't get done. Okay, I need to spray the back side of these gray. I forgot to flip some of these over. Very important that you do both sides. Okay, let me go quick spray these. Okay, back to where we were. Everything fits nice and tight. I will take these out and glue them, but I just want to show you. And then these. Very simple. Now we need to decide about possibly doing some weathering on the back wall. That goes there, and that goes there. And so let's add some rust on our back wall, just a little bit, and we'll just add the bittersweet chocolate. So I'm taking a pencil and I'm just drawing where those pillars are. Then we'll take these out and add some rust along there with a sponge. Why not? We'll do the same with these. That goes there. Okay, we're going to grab this piece and these two. We're going to lay this down. That one goes right there in the center. Very light. We're not pressing hard at all on it. And let's see, these, let me refer to this. The circle is down. Yeah. That goes like that, and that goes like that. All right, we'll just quick trace these. Oops, I had it upside down. Okay, now we can start to add our rust. Okay, we're going to take the bittersweet chocolate, add a lot of water to it. So I just looked at the model, and all that gets covered up down low. You don't even see it. So you don't need to paint that area. You know, this was so easy to put together. I just quick glued everything together and then sprayed the whole thing with a gray primer after it was all together. Now, if you wanted to, I suppose you could paint it when it's all assembled like this, but you wouldn't be able to get the separation of color in certain details. But it's an option. Okay, now we can actually start to glue pieces on here. It really doesn't take a lot of glue because it fits so tight in here. Now it should all be flush on the top. If it's not, you just need to push it down in there further. Okay, let's move on to these pieces. Okay, these two pieces right here, they go on the outside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask these and paint this area the teal color. Okay, while we're waiting for these to dry, let's flip this on its back. Now this is going to require super glue. I have to look at my model to see which way they go. Okay. Well, I just made a mistake. I don't know if I can get this up. Yeah. Whew. I need to paint black behind there for that vent. And same on this side. Now there's a space right there because this piece gets glued on just like that. But next we're going to do this piece. Make sure it's flush with the top. Now there's lines, there's an outline on there that's engraved. So just match up the piece on there. Now we're going to take our bittersweet chocolate again and we're going to sponge the end of these so they go on the inside with that like a U shape going up. And they get glued right in there. So you can see, you could leave them if you wanted to. Just leave them completely gray. They may show up when you're photographing your action figures on it. But you can see here there's an opening. Okay, now we'll quick glue these in. So you just want to put glue here and here. Could do it on the bottom if you wanted to. Now it's very important to make sure that these are sitting completely flat on the base and pushed all the way back and sitting flat. It's important to have these flat, perfectly flat, because our walkways get glued on top of this and you want that to be perfectly level. So if you just press it down and pinch these together, only takes a second. That super glue sets up quick. Now if you're not comfortable using super glue, don't. Use wood glue or the white Elmer's glue. Okay, next we have these pieces right here. Get 2 of those. Now we need to put some rust on these and then get those glued on the ends like that. Okay, these are painted and we'll get them glued in place. Put glue down the back, on here, and a little on the end. And then make sure that it's all flush with the end. I'll show you after this dries. And make sure again that it's pressed down all the way for our walkway. It's very important that the back and the base is at a nice 90-degree angle, so that if you build a second diorama or a third diorama, you want them all to line up and match. Okay, next let's glue in our shelf brackets. Or if you want, real quick, let's glue these in. Again, make sure that your side is flush. Now we'll move on to our shelf brackets. Make sure everything is pressed in and flush. You want everything to fit perfect and be flush so that when you put your shelf on there, it sits flat. Okay, we'll take these off and glue those in later. Okay, next, this piece here, we need to paint that yellow. And then this gets glued on top of it. And now, back to sponging. And that gets glued in right there. Okay, let's glue on these pieces. They go right on the end here. Now we probably should check to make sure that these are square. Yeah, see, it's not. Important to make sure that that's square, because if you get another one and put it next to it, you want those to butt up against each other. Okay, next we'll lay this down, and we're going to glue on these pieces, and then after they're glued on, we can add some rust to them. Now, you can see there's lines engraved on it. You want that line at the top. Now, you have to be careful because your fingers are going to want to stick to this. There's a rectangle that has a line engraved on it. Make sure that line matches up with the piece that we just glued on there. I'll show you up close after I get this on. And if you need to spread these apart to make sure that it goes all the way to the edge, you can just simply pull them apart a little bit. Okay, I'll probably have to take the camera off to show you. But that line, hopefully you can see it, but that line should match up. And then there's another piece that goes up here that has that same line on it. There's 4 that are the same size. And those go at the bottom. And we're not going to do it now, but they go out here too. Yeah, those 4 pieces are all the same size. Now you want to set these in place before you actually glue them. Get a good idea of where they go. So they should be flush on the ends. Okay, I like this. So let's take them off and actually glue them in. So let's start. They fit tight. They'll snap in there. I'm just holding it up there for the length of it so I know where to put the glue. Now we're going to go all the way to the edge and make sure that it's pushed all the way up against those. Okay. Very exciting. Now we have these shapes that came out of the center of these. And I'm going to glue those on the base, just like that. You can put these anywhere. Now let's get these covered. So again, make sure you're using the longer ones. We have 2 that are like almost square. You can see one is longer. So we're going to take the longer ones. They should be the same size as these 2. And we're going to glue those right there. And push them all the way down so that they rest on the walkway. Then take the square ones, test fit them first. Okay, then we have these little rectangles. Okay, then we have these, and they have rectangles engraved in them. I don't know if you can see that. Those go right on the front. Okay, now we'll just get some rust on those. Let's get our shelves glued on. Okay, let's get our cage glued together. There's some areas where the glue's kind of thick, so I'm just kind of spreading it out. Okay, and then we'll just test fit them. I'll glue those, but that's what it looks like. In the kit, you get 3D printed parts. You'll receive 2 of these 2, these 3 control panels, and these 2. Alright, let's get a gray primer sprayed on these, and then we'll paint them. So it takes a little bit of work, not much, but you have to cut all the supports off. And then if you want to, you can take some really fine sandpaper and clean them up a little bit. They are slightly brittle, so you just want to be careful so you don't break them. I say it all the time, but it helps to use a brand new blade. I can put a link in the description for these. I buy 100 at a time. Then we can just take our file them smooth. So I put a gray primer on everything, and then on these I put a wash. It's called Starship Wash. A lot of water and just 1 drop of this wash, and then brushed it over, and it goes into all the cracks. I then dry brushed it with slate gray. I'm going to add just a little bit of rust to these panels, and then we'll paint the buttons different colors. And then after the primer was dried, I sprayed these with the teal color, and now I'll just take a sponge and add some rust, and then we'll get everything glued on. Now if you want these to look a little bit more like metal, you could dry brush some of the edges with the silver. Yeah, dry brushing with the silver definitely adds a lot to it. Really brings out the details. All right, I actually spent hours and hours designing these parts in the computer and then 3D printing them, and I am thrilled with how they've turned out. I just finished painting the buttons, and I used these metallic colors, red and blue. And I did some white buttons. So in the kit, you'll get 3 straws, and I cut them into thirds. Then, I'll show you. Just slide them through the hole. And just put a dab of super glue on the end to hold them there. Then you can paint them whatever color you want. You see there's 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. Okay, for the final detail on this build, you'll get 2 straws in the kit. They go right down in these corners, so you'll want to cut them level with the top here. And same on this side. Okay, so what I did was sprayed them with a reddish brown primer. I then took the hammer finish spray paint that we did on the base and misted from the bottom up. Just a very light misting. I don't know if you can see that, but now we'll just simply glue these in place. Now we'll put some super glue on this, but we need to be very careful not to get glue on anything while we're lowering it down in there. Now you could spray that with the teal color if you wanted to. Okay, let me take the camera off and give you a closer look at this. Okay, here is the second diorama that we're going to be building. It is waste disposal. Now on this one, I'm going to spray a gray primer on all of the parts, both sides. I'm going to start to paint all of the parts, and then we'll glue it all together. So on this diorama, it's going to be more about how to assemble it, and a little bit less time on how to paint it, since I already showed that on the first diorama. So this one should go pretty quick. I wanted to quick mention that the accent color on this one is going to be green. Now I'll show you on this back wall, you simply pop out these circles. Yours may have to be cut a little bit. They might not pop out quite as easy as these. So then you just simply take these and glue them onto the front of these. And you can see the lines on there. Just use that as a guide. And then once that's glued together, and these are fully painted and weathered, then we can glue them in place on here. I'll show you quick on the finished model, or the gray one. And again, save all of your extra pieces that you pop out, because it makes for great little detail parts. Okay, after painting the back wall and the base, I glued them together with super glue, being sure to use my blocks to make sure that it's perfectly straight. Now we'll tip it on its back, and let's start with these. Okay, let's glue on our circle. That point needs to face up. And you notice I painted it white underneath that circle. Okay, the other side of these are painted, and now we're going to glue those in place. It really doesn't take a lot of glue. The pieces fit pretty snug in the slots, so, and again, make sure that's flush. Okay, now we can lay it on its back again and glue this on the top. Okay, now let's take these and glue those on. The circle goes at the bottom. Oh, but we first need to paint black on the wall behind that vent. Let's do that quick. Now we'll start with this piece. And the backside's gray. You could paint the other side too if you wanted to. I did on the first diorama. I don't know why I didn't on this one. Okay, very important that that's flush. I'll just hold it there for a second. Now we'll do the same on the other side. Now we can put these in. As you can see, once you get everything painted, it really goes together pretty quick, but it takes a long time to paint all the pieces. It might not take as long if you're making it look new. If you're not doing all of this weathering. Okay, let's glue these in place. Again, you're going to want to use something square so that you know they're straight. Next, you're going to want to take these. There's two of them. And they go right here. And again, just take your block and make sure that it's square. And make sure they're pushed all the way down. I forgot to mention that on these outer pieces. Make sure they are pushed all the way down. Because those walkways get put on there and you want that perfectly level. Now, you're going to want to take these. And there's 4 of them. It goes like that. This side faces down. And they go on the inside. Again, very important that they are flat. Next, we're going to glue in this piece. And this is 2 pieces. You have your 16th inch wood on the bottom, and then you have a 32nd inch piece that goes on the top that has the cutouts. And that's going to go there. I'm just going to mark the edge so I know how far to put the glue on here. And then we'll just put a little bit of glue on the back. Now with this, there's a little bit of play, so just simply center it and make sure it's pushed all the way back. We'll hold it for a second. Okay, first we want to just set these in here just to get an idea of how they sit. Now I used that rubber cement again on this, and there's still some in the cracks, so I'm just using a soft wire brush to scrape that stuff out. Okay, it's fitting great. It's flush with the end. Okay, I'll get these cleaned up, and then I'll get everything glued in, and again I'll be using super glue. Okay, our walkway's glued in. Now we've got these little pieces that came out of here. So we're just going to flip those and glue them right there. Okay, now we'll flip this back and glue on these pieces right here. Always hold it where it's going to go first before you glue it, just to make sure that it fits good. Now take your square, make sure it's flush. Everything has to be flush at the top. Okay, next we're going to glue in these. There's a long one and then two short ones. Then we can take this top piece, and again, it's a piece of wood that's a 1/16 of an inch thick, and then it has a dark brown piece of wood that's a 32nd of an inch that gets glued on top of it, that has all the stripes laser cut out of it. Okay, so that goes right there. Now we'll just take some burnt sienna and sponge on some rust onto the walkway. Now I'm going to take gunmetal from ammo. Okay, next we're going to glue on all these little squares, and it covers all of this. And again, they have a line on them that goes at the top. So after we get these all glued on, then we'll go back in with a sponge and add some rust to it. Now they're both the same, so there's not like a right side and a left side. When I designed this, I tried to make it as easy as possible so that the pieces are almost irreversible. They can go in any order. You don't have to be concerned about the right side and the left side. Now with that line going up the center, let's cut out the square one that also has lines on it. And just make sure you line up those lines. Hopefully you can see that line continues all the way down. Okay, I'll get these covered. It's pretty self-explanatory. The one with the square engraved in it, those two go on the front. Then you have a thin one that goes across, and then you have one that goes on the top. So again, those two go on the front, and then we have the two thin ones that go right there. Alright, I'll get these glued on, and then we'll come back and install, let's see, we'll work on our 3D printed parts that go in here. Real quick, I wanted to explain to you how I did the green. It's this spray paint. I had never used this before, so I just wanted to try it. So I sprayed everything with this green first, then sponged on Hauser medium green, then sponged on light avocado. Then after all that dried, for the rust I sponged on burnt sienna. Then on the edges, real light, I sponged on bittersweet chocolate. I then sponged some gunmetal from ammo, and then did some dry brushing with light metal. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors. Lots of layers. Okay, we have straws that go in the corner here and the corner here. Okay, I've got my detail parts, the 3D printed parts, and I carefully cut them off of these sprues and supports. Now I'm just taking a file and just cleaning them up a little bit. Making sure they're nice and flat. After this, I'll quick wash them and then dry them with my hair dryer and spray a primer on them. These were so fun to build. Now, if you saw my previous video called New Modular Dioramas, you know there's more to come. I have more of these designed. Please go and watch that video because these are stackable. You can stack them as high as you want and you'll be able to go as long as you want. They're modular dioramas that just fit together and stack. Definitely there will be more videos coming showing how to put those together and how to paint and weather those. All right, again, these are available on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. And like I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, you don't have to make these look old and rusty. You can definitely make them look brand new based on any sci-fi movie that you watch. So I'll probably do some videos in the future where I put these together and paint them to actually look like they're new. And we'll pick different colors and we'll do videos on lighting these. So a lot more sci-fi videos to come. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, any of you who are Patreons know that when I release a new kit, I offer a discount code to all Patreons. So again, with these, I will offer a code on my Patreon page for members to get a discount. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.